Adversity is the secret ingredient to anything successful. And this is the truth. Like, my entire life has been built on the back of adversity. Make a choice. Be a champion.
Hey, Coach, you ready?
Yep. Adversity is one of those things that people act like it doesn't exist. It's actually mind-blowing to me. Everyone always likes to say, oh, well, you don't understand this, you don't understand that, my childhood was like this, or whatever it is. Like, adversity, man, adversity is the secret ingredient to anything successful. And this is the truth. Like, my entire life has been built on the back of adversity. From when I was a kid, I was the smallest guy in the playground. I was the smallest kid in sports. I was made fun of because I was the only Jewish kid that I knew of in my school. I was different than everybody else. And adversity at the time, for all of us, adversity is like one of those things that, man, I don't want to be going through this. Why is this happening to me? But if you look at the history of what adversity does, adversity actually creates the opportunities for you to have success as long as you don't stop because of the adversity. Like, for me, a lot of my strong will, my backbone came from all the people that made fun of me. It came from all the times that I almost came close to something. And adversity is like, it's like one of those things that, yeah, it sucks, man. That stuff is painful. But if you use that pain as motivation, adversity is going to be what drives you to the next level. Like, I'm 37 years old, and some of my greatest accomplishments in sports, I feel, have come in my late 30s, and it's not because that all of a sudden I'm this different person. It just means that I never quit. I didn't allow myself to stop. I didn't allow myself to make excuses. And that's the other part about it, is like, when adversity happens, people like to make excuses. And it's like, shut the fuck up and own what you had happen to you. Own the fact that there was something you probably could have done differently at some point. Maybe it was just a very minor detail, but that adversity is what's going to allow you to grow. Now I'm at the stage in my life where, like, okay, something shitty happens, let's figure out why and figure out how we can grow from this. I think that the most horrific things that can happen to me in my life now, it's not that I want it to happen, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, what is this going to turn me into because of it? Adversity now is so different than what it was when I was growing up. I'm no different than anybody else. That when I was younger, man, I used to go home crying as a kid. I used to go home and say, oh, this happened. I got jumped on my way home from school. Like, I was by no means a kid that just had things handed to him. I mean, I lived in a rough neighborhood. Give you an example of some of my childhood. I lived in a rough neighborhood, and I had to walk, what was it, maybe 4 or 5 miles every day to get to and from school. And I always had to make a choice. Okay, do I walk down this street, or do I walk around the long street that's going to add another mile to my walk just because I don't want to walk through a certain neighborhood? And it didn't happen all the time, but when I'd make certain choices, guess what? There were people there to meet me. I got jumped at school. I got jumped on my way home from school. These are different occasions. I remember the first time that I got jumped, I was in the 7th grade. Can you imagine that? In the 7th grade, I was jumped in school. It wasn't even outside of school. It was in school. I was beat up by 2 gangbangers, and I had my head stomped in. The craziest thing about it is I could hear the whole thing. I could hear the whole thing happening while it was going on. I got suspended from school. I got suspended for school because I got into a fight, which is hilarious because there wasn't much of a fight on my end. I actually ended up taking the entire beating. I had bleeding in both my eyes. Can you imagine that as a 7th grader? As a 7th grader, getting your face stomped in and going home and trying to figure out, why did this happen to me? Now, when I was in the 7th grade, I think I was 80 pounds, 70 pounds. When I got into high school, I was 98 pounds in high school. My freshman year, I was wrestling at 103 pounds. My senior year, I wrestled at 119 pounds. I was a tiny kid. And when I graduated high school, I still wasn't even 5 feet tall. Put that in perspective. Imagine what that was like growing up. So I was a Jewish kid. I'm not practicing, but my mother's Jewish, and in the school there really wasn't too many other Jews, so the kids just had an extra piece of ammunition to throw at me. I was the smallest guy in my group. I was underweight. I had a very high voice, and I was always thinking that what I needed for people to do to like me was be the funny guy, be the guy that wanted to be the one in the first front of a crowd. That way, so they didn't think I was a pussy. And I was always trying to make other people feel a certain way about me, rather than finding a way to feel how I felt about myself. Because when I had adversity after adversity after adversity, I just accepted it. And I'm like, you know what? This is just the way my life is. I'm always going to be picked on. I'm always going to get bullied. I'm never going to make amazing things happen because I always come up short. And it wasn't until actually I started fighting that I realized that the adversity is what I was trying to fight against. Even I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and seeing myself develop skills as a businessman, I still just thought it was like a skilled trade. I never saw this as something that was building my confidence. And it wasn't until I started fighting that I realized that, wow, I'm actually fighting to prove to myself that all my things in the past didn't need to weigh me down anymore. And as soon as that started changing and the adversity started becoming opportunities, that I started changing myself. All of a sudden, everything from my past started making more sense. So, wow, okay, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to grow from this. Now the opportunities started creating themselves more and more and more and more. And then it became almost like an obsession that I'm like, okay, if something bad happens to me, what can I spawn this into? What can I grow this into? I'm so obsessed with creating your own success that all I see is opportunity now. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how hard something is going to be. It's like, okay, cool. Let's spin it. Let's run it. Let's go. I'm not afraid of it anymore. And I think that's what a lot of us are when it comes to adversity, is that we're afraid for it to happen again. We're afraid to not have the results happen that we've put so much into. And if you look at historically speaking, there has been never a champion, a successful business person, or anybody that's ever done amazing things that has not been on the other side of adversity. It doesn't work, because you're gonna have to dig and 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 dig, and hopefully one day you'll pop up on the other side of it. But here's one truth: the day that you stop, the day that you quit, is the day that it never happens. And that's a choice, right? It comes down to a choice, that if you are refusing to stop, and if you truly believe that whatever you're doing is going to lead you in the direction that you're supposed to go to, then the adversity is just a new tool. It's a new level for you to get past. That's all it is. So adversity is really what we need to build the backbone to be successful, to be happy, for whatever it is that you're aspiring to. You know, like for me, I just got back from Mexico, and it was a rough weekend for us. One of my athletes had a really rough night. We got knocked out in the first round, and as a coach, that was extremely hard for me to be a part of, because we put so much into this. And it's like, man, like, what are we going to do about this? And the answer really is, we dust ourselves off, we make adjustments, we analyze, and we do it again. Because if we don't make adjustments, how can we continue to improve? A friend of mine said that we compete to improve, not to prove. And And that was one of the most powerful things I've heard in a very long time. Just think about that. So many people are competing and doing things to prove to others, but not to improve. And if you just change that dialogue a little bit, can you imagine the difference that makes in your approach to everything? So I'll leave it at that. Stop trying to prove and let it be about improving. Let adversity be what drives you to that next level and creates your greatness.